And good evening. We're back again with another AF one-on-one. I'm Adam Pelletier. Joining me tonight is the AF1 head of officiating, Dave Chesney. Dave, thank you for joining us tonight. We know that officials are sometimes not everybody's favorite person, but we know that we couldn't play our game without you. So thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing
Well,
tonight?
thank you for having me, and it's good to be with you. And the adage in officiating is if you can leave the stadium, arena, court without people knowing who you are, then you've had a good game. So this is a little bit outside the box for officials to be, in conversation on camera, et cetera. But anytime we can help educate coaches, fans, players, and so that they have a better understanding of what we do, I like to take advantage of that.
Yeah, and that's what we're all about. We want to make sure that everybody has an understanding of how our game works, how our systems work, and just why you can trust that Dave's going to make sure that we have the best officials out there and the most qualified officials to officiate our game so that way we have a good, clean game that's well run and has the right outcome. The best team's going to leave the field as the
Yeah,
victor.
that's the
So
way we want it to end up for sure.
there we go. So, Dave, just talk to us a little bit about your background and your journey to get here as the head of officiating. Where have you officiated before, and why the draw to arena football?
Well, I started out. I needed a one credit course in college to complete my 12 credits to be a full time student. I went to school on the GI Bill, and I was sitting around with a bunch of other vets and guys in the student lounge. I said, I need one credit. What do you recommend, guys? And they said, well, you can take bowling, you can take archery. And one guy says, take sports officiating. And I said, what is that? And he said, well, they teach you to be a referee and an umpire. And I had played high school sports. And so that sounded interesting. I said, do you have to write any papers? And they all said, no, it's more of an experiential type class. So I took the class and then ended up working rocket football during the class. That was part of the class. And that was in 1973. And then started working high school from there, and then small college, and retired from the Big Ten conference. I worked in the Big Ten for 13 years, and Arena started in 1987, and I was fortunate enough to join that staff in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And worked on the field for about 20 years in arena football, and you talk to any official that has worked arena, and they'll tell you it makes you a better official because of the first of all, you have to get used to the proximity, being
Mm-hmm.
so close to the players, and you've got boards behind you that you don't have in the outdoor game, and it's just much more compact. But the quickness of the game, I tell people it's not fast, it's more quick than fast. And the quickness of it as an official forces you to take a mental snapshot of what you've seen and then process that because it happens so quickly. And when you
Okay.
carry that into the outdoor game, the outdoor game seems to slow down. And when you get to the higher levels of college football, they're fast and they're athletic. After a season of indoor football, the outdoor game seems to be slower, and you can see things develop and materialize, and you just feel like you have a lot more time to make a call. So arena has been very beneficial and you'll get the same answer, I think, from a lot of
Mm-hmm.
outdoor officials tell you how beneficial indoor football is.
And I know you mentioned previously, this experience in the arena really translate and helps officials be better in the outdoor game. And I know that there's a long fraternity of officials who have worked in the arena. And, you mentioned previously to us that these officials are now working with some of our crews. Do you want to talk about the experiences and some of those officials who are now coming back to work with our arena football crew to get them up to snuff?
Yes, arena has been around long enough that it is able to generate a second generation, and many of the former players, and as a matter of fact, we have 3 on our staff this year. One of the officials, Josh Philpart, will be an official in the Orlando area and work our Orlando franchise. Then we have Kelron Sykes, a former player. He'll be on the Arizona crew, as will George LaFrance. And George LaFrance is one of our Arena Hall of Famers. He's in the Arena Football Hall of Fame as a player and has now come back and has worked some high school, has worked a lot of high school and some small college, and wants to get back into the arena game. So they're always welcome because they understand it in a different depth, I think, than officials that haven't played it. So they're always welcome to come back, and we can help them understand the rules and the mechanics. And I think that they take to the game maybe a little quicker than just a regular official that we're bringing in from the outdoor game. So we're excited to have them. There was a time when there were 40 NFL officials on their roster that had worked arena football back in the day. So, and they too will tell you, some of them now have retired from the NFL, but there was a time we had a number of former AFL officials on the NFL roster. And I'm going to hold a series of position meetings, Zoom meetings next week. And 4 of the NFL officials will be joining us and helping train our officials by position next week. And
That's
we're
awesome.
looking forward to that. Yeah, they're willing to give back. Arena football is it grabs you as an official. It's fun. There's a party going on, and it ends up being a football game, and we're involved, and that's
and you're trying to keep control of everything on the field while there's a party going on, and you're wondering what fun and craziness they got going on in section.
And I'm glad you bring that up, because we as officials, we can't get caught up in that emotion and all that quick play and the rock and roll music, and and you'll see during introductions, especially in arena, with pyrotechnics and the lighting and the public address announcer, it's an exciting time. But as an official, it's like, who do I get to headbutt? When I get excited, so it teaches us to control our emotions and be aware when we do start getting caught up in the quickness. Maybe you're at the goal line, 4th down, time's running out, the place is loud, the music's playing. I mean, you just have to keep yourself in check, stay focused, and do your job the best you can for the players and the coaches. We can't get as emotional as they are allowed to be.
Yeah. And just talking about some of the mechanics and some of the things in arena football, how does it add anything that the coaches are on the field as an extra body to dodge in the shoebox that is an arena football field?
Yes, angles are important whether you're indoors or outdoors, but even more so indoors. And it's more likely that because of the proximity, it's more likely that perhaps a player may move in front of you and block your vision at a crucial time. Did he rub up against the board after a little contact and therefore be out of bounds, and we stop the play, and the coach may be running down the field cheering him on. And so, yeah, those angles. But then we have to get help from the guys who are inside looking out. Okay, get help from the umpire, or perhaps the crewmate that's across the field from you, and use what we call cross-field mechanics. So if he gets squeezed off on a play, I, as his crewmate on the other side, I may have to make that call. Did he break the plane of the goal line? Was he knocked out of bounds at the 1 or the half-yard line because he got pinched off either with a coach or perhaps some players that are involved in that play? So there's philosophies and mechanics that we use to help each other out because of those situations.
Mm-hmm. Moving beyond the mechanics, just thinking about some of the procedures and rules that we have in arena football. Talk to us. The last minute of every half is exciting times in arena football. Can you talk about how that last minute timing for people who are maybe not as familiar with the 1 minute warning and the 1 minute timing rules?
The 1 minute timing rules, we go to clock stoppages as if it were outdoor football. Incomplete passes, the clock is going to stop. Obviously any violation, foul, player going out of bounds, we're going to stop the clock. Outside of 1 minute in the arena game, the clock continues to run in those situations. So that's the difference is, and sometimes fans who are new to our league will even yell at the official on the sideline, say, "Stop the clock," because they're accustomed to that happening in whatever leagues they watch in the outdoor game. But the clock continues to run outside 1 minute. We get inside 1 minute, then it stops as it normally would in outdoor football.
And of course, the offense has to gain positive yardage. They can't.
Yes, the offense can't
yardage.
take a knee. Correct. They can't take a knee as time's expiring, time's running out. They have a lead and they have the ball. You'll see outdoor football, they take a knee and just let the clock run. Arena rules require the offense to gain positive yardage, and 1 inch is considered positive yardage. So they need to move the ball down the field at least 1 inch if they want the clock to continue to run and the defenses run out of timeouts. They still need to play football and gain ground.
Yeah. So thinking about some of those rules, we had a question come in. Is there a difference between a kickoff that's kicked out of bounds on the fly versus a ball that bounces out of bounds?
That's a great question. There is a difference. And I think the overriding philosophy is if the ball hits in the field of play and then bounces over the board or hits the board, then it would be put at the spot where it went out. If it goes out at the 16, hits in the field of play, goes over the board or hits the board at the 16-yard line, it'll be placed at the 16-yard line. The philosophy is because the ball hit in the field of play, the receiving team had an opportunity to field it, had an opportunity to play it. Maybe they just didn't have their people in the right spots, but the opportunity was afforded to them to play football. So it'll go to that spot. If it's kicked out of bounds on the fly, it's going to go to the receiving team's 20-yard line. With arena football and the nets, the overriding philosophy is kicking team, hit the net. If you go over, if you go under, if you go left or right of the net structure, the ball's coming out to the receiving team's 20-yard line, 1st and 10. So it's in their best interest to hit the net, get maybe some funny bounces if it hits in the end zone off from the net, or it's received and we get some exciting run backs. The fan experience is hit the net, let's play football.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
No. And so you mentioned the quickness of the arena game. And one thing that we've seen at a lot of levels of football is the increased holding calls, and that people are wanting holding calls more often, saying there's holding, he's holding him, needs to do this. Can you kind of explain the subtleties there of holding and just what they'll do to mitigate it in the arena game?
Yeah, with every rule, there's a philosophy. How are we going to call it? How are we going to administer it? We can get real ticky-tack and real technical. And you don't want a ball game called from a technical standpoint because it ruins the flow of the game. And, if you followed the rule book word for word, it would be, an unruly product. It wouldn't be something you'd want to watch because there would be continued stoppages. These players are all good athletes. And for example, you mentioned holding. Grabbing is not holding. Okay, everybody sees the grab. You see the shirt. And now if I'm the defensive player and the offensive player is grabbing me, I'm probably grabbing him too because that's what I've been taught. Okay, everybody gets in there and we get physical and it's mano on mano. Strongest guy may win. Someone who has good technique and can break away from the grab, but grabbing in and of itself is not holding. It's can the defensive player disengage from that hold to now go pursue the ball carrier, or sometimes the defense will grab the center so that he can't get out to block the linebacker. So everybody's grabbing, but if the player that's being grabbed can't disengage and get away from that person doing the grab, then it becomes holding. But if you and I grab each other and we want to see who's the strongest, and I don't even try to break away from you, then I'm not being held and neither are you, because neither one of us are really choosing to play football and pursue the action beyond just where the two of us are standing. So we have to read a lot of things into what is a hold just because there's grabbing. So grabbing in and of itself is not holding. It's what occurs. A lot of times as officials, we'll look at their feet and people say, well, how can you call holding looking at their feet? But if your feet beat mine and you start getting around me, and now I've got that grab and I take a step away from you, or I interfere with your ability to possibly rush the quarterback, that grab then becomes a hold because your athleticism has beaten me, your feet, and you're getting around me, and now that becomes a hold.
And does that apply to the receivers and the defensive back and the defensive players on the outside as well? You're looking for that impediment and that you're restricting them?
Yes, yeah. You'll have to, and it sometimes will depend on, for example, if you have a tight end and he might be, 260, 265, weigh 265 pounds, and somebody grabs the back of his shirt and stretches it. If he can't run through that little jersey stretch, then maybe he needs to get in the weight room a little bit more. Okay, so now if that jersey stretch does take a half a step or takes his momentum away from him, then it's a foul. Okay, but a little snug, a little tug, and everybody can see it, and that, of course, everybody else holding. But what effect did it have on the play? So we have to look at advantage, disadvantage. What effect does it have on the play? Your feet beat me, you're getting around me, and I take you down or I grab you. That has an effect on that play. You may have been able to force the quarterback into throwing the ball sooner and break up the timing of that play. So there's a lot of things that go into, is that a foul or is that not a foul based on philosophy, as opposed to just what it says on paper in the book.
So just a couple of real quick questions here. I know we talked about it a little bit. The deuce is back this year, and the only restriction is on you can't end the game on a deuce when we go to sudden death overtime, correct?
No, the rule book says you can end it on a deuce.
Okay.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I was just in that. I'm glad you brought that up because I was a little taken aback, when I read that. It's like, so we're going to go overtime and we flip the coin. And if you've got a good kicker, you're probably going to want to kick. And
Mhm.
you know, most I don't know, depends on the coach's philosophy. A lot of them want the ball, you know, but the game can end on a deuce.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit earlier before we got on about the influence of instant replay. Just talk to us about how that changes some things as an on-field official.
Replay really was a godsend when it first was proposed, and I was on the field in the outdoor game and in arena prior to replay. So once the discussion started, and they say, "Hey, they're talking about bringing in replay," we all got a little nervous. You know,
Mhm.
it's like you're going to be immediately evaluated right there while you're still on the field, not evaluated in the office the following day like it usually occurs. So officials were a little skeptical at first, but um, there are situations, as I mentioned, where somebody might flash in front of you. And I had a situation one time, a defensive player flash in front of me just as the runners either fumbled the ball or his knee was down. I really didn't know.
Mhm.
And, you know, he had obscured my vision. It's like, well, the ball's out. It's a fumble. Let's see what happens. So I was at Iowa and I live in Michigan. I'm driving home and we had the bag phones in the car. You know, it was pre-cell phone. I know
Mhm.
I'm dating myself, but I called my wife, you know, and I said, "Did you see that fumble? Did you watch the game?" "Yes." I said, "Did you see that one where the Michigan State kid fumbled? Was his knee down?" And she goes, "What?" And which means she had it on, but she wasn't watching it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. You know, I didn't know until Monday. The league office called me and they said, you know, "Hey, Dave, that wasn't a fumble. His knee was down." It's like, oh. So any official will know that when that happens, I get a downgrade. We
Mhm.
call it a downgrade. You miss a call or you call something that the office doesn't favor, you get a downgrade. And then at the end of the season, you tally up your downgrades or hopefully your lack of downgrades. That's how you get your bowl assignments.
Mhm.
And that's how you get your postseason assignments is through, you know, how was your year? How was your season based on number of downgrades that either you
Mhm.
get or you don't get. So replay corrects all that on the spot, and that's a good thing even for us. Let's get it right, and
Mhm.
and we'll go from there. Because you know, I call everybody I knew all weekend that didn't work that Saturday, the guys that were off. I say, "Hey, did you see the Michigan State Iowa game?" "No, I was out with my family. No, I was fishing. No, I was whatever." And so I went the whole weekend, and I didn't know if that was a fumble or not. Replay takes care of that for us right on the spot, and that's a good thing for everybody involved: coaches, players, fans, officials.
There we go. Just a couple questions in the chat I want to hit. I'll answer and then we'll part because I promised you 15, 20 minutes and we're over that now, but
Oh,
I
okay.
appreciate your
Well,
time.
sure.
Um, Officials are assigned as a group. They're local to our teams and our markets. Dave has
Yes.
worked hard to recruit these officials, and they're going to be highly trained, and he's going to be on them, and he's going to make sure that he has them calibrated and on track. Pushing the league rule book. We're going to do more things like this with Dave, where we talk about specific rule sets to expand that. We may decide to publish it in the future, but at this time, we're not going to publish the rule book. So, Dave, do you have any final parting words for everybody who's kind of tuned in, listened? Officiating the season you're excited for?
Well, I'm excited. You know, we've been having meetings now, and my officials have had the rule book, and they also get a mechanics manual, who their keys are depending on the formation, who they're looking at, where they should be standing, who's covering what line. We have to officiate lines as well as people so that we can be in the right place to make the call because it happens so quickly that there are places that they have to be, and not only rules, but as I said, mechanics and philosophies. Okay, you know, a little contact possibly on a receiver. is not pass interference. I can put my hand on a face mask. That's not a face mask penalty. You have to grasp, twist, or turn a face mask to be a face mask penalty. So if I'm tackling someone and I wrap them with my hand on the face mask, but no grasp, twist, or turn, not a foul. And that we're going over all those things now. Most of the guys work small college outdoors, so they've been. We follow pretty much the same philosophies that the outdoor game follows, and they're accustomed to these philosophies, and we can just reinforce what we want, what we don't want, and how we want it called. Hopefully, I haven't been trained yet on our video system, but I will create weekly training tapes where I will cut plays, both good and bad, and that helps reinforce our training efforts throughout the season. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done. Preseason, we've got the rest of February and the first week of March. And then our week 0 teams, we have 2 games week 0. And one thing about officiating is you have to work your first game and be 100% correct and then get better from there. So that's the challenge that we face, and we look forward to that challenge.
There we go. 100% correct every week. Dave, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate all your work helping to bring this great game of arena football to life. And we'll be back next week, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Adam.